In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to delete the script tags that we created in the last video using GraphQL. More on that after this intro. In today's lesson, we are going to learn how to delete the script tag using GraphQL or the GraphQL mutation called scriptTagDelete. Now, if you're watching this video directly and you don't have this install script tag button yet, then I suggest you check out the full playlist of the series. It should be down in the description below. Also, this video is just going to be a quick video showing you how to delete a script tag, so I won't be making that much effort editing this video or something, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do in this video is to fix the following card because it looks ugly. Let's just make this pretty or nice to look at. So we're going to use the following card. We're going to use Polaris, obviously. So I'll put the link of this page in the description below as well if you want to learn more about the card component. So what we're going to use is the card with the footer section or footer action. So you open that. We have two buttons here. The first button is going to be the destructive button, or aka the cancel button or remove button. The other button is going to be for the install script tag. Okay, so let's just do this. Let's go back to VS Code and open the script tag component component. So it should be in the resources, in the JS folder, and React and components, and it should be the scripts page. I'll open this as well as the page layout. And because we are going to remove the card component in this in the page layout component. So let's just get rid of this card now and replace that with the children variable. Just like that. We don't need the card here anymore in the import, so we can now get rid of this as well. Save it. And now we can continue to the scripts page. And we can scroll down, and instead of returning div, we are going to use card. And then we can use here the properties such as the sectioned. And then the title. And we can give this a title like install, or we can just say something like script tag. Yeah, something like that. And then inside of the card, we're going to create like paragraph tags, so paragraph, and then we can say something like, before you use the app, it is highly recommended that you install the script tags that, let me just put parentheses here because English, right? So script tags that is required by the app. So we can say something like that, and we can add another paragraph tag and then say something like, if you wish to uninstall the app, make sure that you first uninstall or remove these script tags by clicking the remove button below, something like that. And now we can remove the following button component or button tag. We don't need this anymore, so delete that. And then going back here in the card, the opening component, we're going to use the property called primary footer action. And then this is going to require us to pass an object, and this is going to be the button. So we need the properties such as the content, and then for its value is going to be the title of the, or the label of the button. So we can say, since this is the primary footer action, this is going to be the green button, which is this one. Okay, this is the primary button, and then the secondary is this one. So for the primary footer action, we can say something like install script tag. So going back to VS Code, we can say install script tag. Okay, and the next up is the on action property. So on action, wait a second, don't forget to add comma, before adding another property. So on action, and this is going to require us to pass a function. So create an empty function or an empty arrow function, just like that. Later on, we're going to add a function in this inside of this curly braces. After the on action property, we're gonna need the loading, and we can just pass here the loading variable. So loading. Previously, we were checking if this is true or false. If this is true, then pass the true boolean value to the loading property. If this is false, then pass it to the loading as false, and so on. But we can just pass here the loading itself because this is going to be automatically a boolean value. You don't need to check it if it's true or false. Okay. Next is the disabled, and we're going to pass here the is installed state. It's like that, and that's pretty much it. If we save this and if we go back to our app, if we open this app and refresh it, we should have the title, script tag, and then the paragraph tags or the paragraphs, and then the install script tag button. That's how easy it is to use Polaris. Now, if you want to learn more about Polaris, I highly suggest you either watch my video, I covered this already, or you can check out this page. Okay, I'll put the link in the description below as always. So let's go back to the app and just wait for it to be reloaded. Okay, so it's not loading. Let me just check the console tab. I believe there is an error. Okay, so we have an error here. Module build failed. Expected corresponding JAX closing tag for the card. Okay, I believe we missed the closing tag. This is supposed to be a card as well. So double check the opening as well as the closing tag of the card component. Okay, so card and then card. Save your file once again and go back to the app and refresh the page. This time it should work. And there we go. Now we have the script tag card. We have the paragraph tags or the paragraphs, and we have the install script tag button, and now it's disabled, and that's because the is installed state is already set to true. So we can no longer click this button. Okay, next up is the destructive button or the red button here that says remove script tag. So let's go back to VS Code and create that secondary footer action. So underneath of this property, use the secondary footer actions. And this is going to require us to pass an array. So make sure that you create a set of brackets or angle brackets. And then inside of this, create a set of curly braces. This is where we're going to create the content, the on action property, and the disabled property. So first is the content. And we can just set this to remove script tag. Script tag. Next up is the on action. We can just create an empty arrow function, just like that. And then next up is the disabled. We can just set this to is installed, but we're going to negate this because if the is installed is set to true, that means the script tag is already installed. So we need to set the disabled property to false, because if the script tag is installed, we want to be able to delete that script tag. So the button should be enabled. Okay, if that makes sense. If the is installed is set to false, then that means the script tag is not yet installed, which means we should not be able to click this button, this remove script tag button. Okay, so now we can save this, or before we continue, let's also use the destructive property and set this to true. That way the button's going to be color red. So save your file and go back to your app and refresh the page. And there you go. Now as you can see, the remove script tag button is currently disabled, and then now it's enabled. Or we can now click this, and that's because the script tag is installed, which means we should be able to click this button because I want to remove the script tag, or we should be able to remove the script tag if the script tag is installed. Okay, so this currently, they don't have functions yet. Even if we click all of these buttons, it's not going to do anything, and that's because we don't have anything yet in the on action property. Okay, so the next that we're going to do is just to create the mutation for the remove script tag button. So let's go back to VS Code and then scroll back up, and just above the return, we can create the variable for the mutation. So we can just call this variable delete underscore script underscore tag underscore mutation, and then we can use the GQL function and then create a set of backtick symbols, and then this is where we're going to create the mutation. So since we're gonna need to pass an ID, because if we go back here in the mutation, in the documentation, we need the following argument, the ID of the script tag that we want to delete. So what we're going to do is to loop through the script tags installed by our app. If we go back here, we have the following query, right? So we're getting the script tags from our Shopify store with the following URL. So we're going to use this data and loop through the edges inside of the script tag. If you take a look here, we have the following condition. This is going to be an array, so we are going to loop through these edges and delete all of the script tags inside of this array, okay? So what we're going to do is to create first the mutation, and then call it scriptTagDelete, and we're gonna need to create a variable, and we can just call this variable scriptTagID, and for its type we'll set it to ID, and then inside of this we're going to use the mutation called scriptTagDelete, and then we need to pass an ID as an input, and then we can just use here the ID that we created, script tag ID. Okay, so what we're doing here is we are creating a variable that we can use later on once we use the mutation, and then we're going to use the function from the useMutation hook, and in that function we're going to pass a value for this variable. I'll show you what I mean by that later on. So inside of this we're going to need the deleted script tag ID. Next is the errors, so user errors, and then we can just get the field and then the message. And then once we have that mutation, we can use the useMutation hook. So create a variable and then the structure the variables. We need the function, so we can just call this delete script tag. Next is the data. I believe we can just call this delete data, and then use the useMutation hook, and then pass here the delete script tag mutation, just like that. Honestly, I don't think this is going to be defined, so it's either you just leave it there or not. So after that, we're going to loop through the data. So the first thing that we're going to do is to check if the data is undefined. So underneath of the useMutation hook, we're going to create a new variable and call this deleting script tag, and this is going to be a function, an arrow function, and then inside of this function we're going to check if the data is not equal to undefined, and if the data that script tags that edges that length is greater than 0. Okay, so we are checking if this is not undefined or the data is not undefined, and we're also checking if the edges in the script tags is greater than 0. This condition is just to check if the data is empty or not. So inside of this condition, we are going to use the data that script tags that edges, and if this is not empty, this array, or the length of the edges is greater than 0, then we can use the map function to loop through this array. So we can just call this variable script tag, and then inside of this we're going to use the delete script tag function from the useMutation. So we're going to use this inside of this map function, and then we're gonna need to pass a value for the script tag ID variable of the mutation. Okay, so inside of the parentheses for the delete script tag function, we can pass an object and then use the variables, and then for this we're gonna need to pass an object as well, and then specify the variable. It should be the script tag ID. So script tag ID, and then for its value we can pass the script tag delete.node.id. So what's happening here is for each script tag inside of the edges, we are passing the ID of that script tag to this mutation variable. Okay? And then it will be used in this function, delete script tag. So once we call this function, it will execute the following mutation, it will delete the script tag, and that's it. Okay? So now we're pretty much done. But first, before we continue, I'm just going to comment this out just to see if it works. So what I'm going to do is to console.log the script tag node ID. So here we can say something like deleting script tag with an ID, and then we can just concatenate or interpolate the script tag.node.id. This is just to check if we are actually getting the right value, or we are passing the right value for the script tag ID variable. Okay, so if I before I save this, we need to use this function. So going back here in the return, here in the card component, in the secondary footer actions, in the onAction property, we are going to use the deleting script tag. Okay, so once again, in this function, call the deleting script tag function. All right, so now I'll save this and let's go back to the app, refresh the page. All right, so now it's loading and there you go. Now we can click the remove script tag button. Let me just first clear the console, and now let's click the remove script tag button, and now we have the following log, deleting script tag with an ID, and we have the following GraphQL ID. Awesome, so now we can uncomment the code. Now we can comment this out. Save it. Let's go back to our app, refresh the page. So since we only have one script tag installed, if we click that remove button, we should no longer have any script tag installed in the Shopify development store. So that means the install button should be enabled as soon as we reload this page again. All right, so for now, let's just delete the script tag first and we'll see what happens. Now let's try and click the remove script tag button. And let's open the network tab. And we have here the following GraphQL. And as you can see, the status is 200. That means the query is successful. So script tag delete, deleted script tag, we have the following ID, and we don't have any errors. At least that's what I assume. Awesome, so we don't have any errors, so that means it's deleted. Now if I reload this page, the remove script tag button should be disabled, and then the install script tag should be enabled. We should be able to click that install button. Okay, so I believe we got an error. Cannot read properties of undefined reading node. I believe this is related to the condition. If we scroll back up, here we have the following condition: if data is not undefined. We should also check the edges, the length of the edges. So we can just add in here an and then the next condition is supposed to be data that script tags, that edges, that length is greater than 0. So we should always check the length of the edges before we do something, because we are directly accessing the edges, so we should check that first. So let's go back to the app and refresh the page. This time it should work. And there you go, now it's reloaded. We can now click the install script tag button, but I believe we still don't have anything for this button. So if we go back to the code editor or VS Code, if we scroll down, we still don't have anything inside of the onAction property. So we need to use the function create script tag mutation, okay? So inside of this function, use the create script tag mutation. Just call that function. So if we click this button, it should execute the following mutation, okay? So let's go back to the app and refresh the page. This time, if we click the install script tag button, it should install script tag. But first, before we do that, I'll just clear the network tab because I want to see what will happen if I click this button, okay? So if I click this, we should have the GraphQL here. and the status is set to 200. That means it's okay. If you click this, we should have the following response. So inside of the data, we have the script tag create, and it created the following script tag. Awesome. So if we open our development store, and if we inspect elements, and if we check the head tag, we should have here the following script. weeklyhow.com codes Laravel script.js. And now if we refresh our app, the button install script tag should be disabled, and then the remove script tag should be enabled. And there we go. Now if we click this remove script tag, we should have another GraphQL here, and the status is set to 200, and the data response is the following scriptTagDelete, and we have the following ID. And if we reload our development store, we should no longer have this script tag. And that's pretty much it. We're finally done removing the script tags using GraphQL. And honestly, you don't have to do this. You don't have to tell the merchants to uninstall or remove your script tags, because as soon as they uninstall your app, the script tags will also be removed automatically. But of course, there's nothing wrong if you ask them to remove your scripts before uninstalling your Shopify apps. Anyway, that's it for this lesson. If you enjoyed this lesson, let me know by hitting the like button and sub to the channel, because there's going to be more videos in the future. In the next video, we're going to learn how to connect our Shopify apps to the database. So make sure that you sub to the channel so you won't miss that specific video. You can check out this icon, the icon right over here beside me. You can click that and then hit sub, and you're sub to the channel. Good job. And also, if you want to watch more video, you can check out that video over there, like beside the logo of my channel. Over there on the right side, you can watch that. That's an amazing video. Go watch it.